The King Who Grew a Horn on His Head. Once upon a time, there was a wise old king. However, the older he grew, the uglier he became. To make things worse, a pointed bone started growing on the top of his head. This bone was very much like one of the horns of a cow. The king was so mortified about this bone that he did not want anyone to find out. To conceal his secret, the king began to wear a larger crown, one which completely covered the horn. Yet, there was one person who had to know about the king's horn. This was the barber, who every month came to the palace to give the king his haircut. And so the king warned him. "Mark my words, you are the only person in the whole kingdom who knows about my bone horn. If anyone else gets to know, it would only mean that you betrayed my trust. And if that happened, you will be sentenced to death." The poor barber was terrified. He swore he would not tell anyone. However, as time went by, the barber started feeling a strong urge to tell. He could not bear to keep such a big secret all to himself. But what could he ever do? Finally, he found a solution. He went deep into the woods where no one could hear him and dug a big hole. He climbed down inside it, and when he was certain that no one was around, he began crying out loud. "The king has a horn on his head, he has a bone. The king has a horn on his head, he has a bone." He kept repeating the same words until he was exhausted. At last, he felt released from the burden of keeping the secret all to himself. He filled up the hole and went back home. Winter came along, and on the patch of soil where the barber had dug up a hole grew a bunch of wild wheat. The children began cutting the wheat to make reeds. But to their surprise, when they blew into them, the reeds began to sing the barber's song. "The king has a horn on his head, he has a bone." The children were so amused that they went into the city prancing to the tune of their reeds. When the king heard the news, he was furious and immediately sent for the barber. Poor barber was terrified and swore that he had not told anyone. But when the king threatened to chop off his head, the barber confessed the whole story about the hole in the woods. The old wise king learned his lesson well. If you truly want to conceal a secret, you must not tell anyone. If just one single person gets to know, it is no longer a kept secret. The king also realized that he had nothing to hide. He decided to go out on the balcony and face his kingdom without a crown. And so he did. Can you guess what happened? As the king was walking out onto the palace balcony, the bone horn on his head shrunk and disappeared.